And I think another issue is just the culture around machine learning, and deep learning in particular has tended to take a bit of a sort of alpha or maybe macho approach, for lack of a sort of better word, where the focus is really on beating, right? So you want to beat the last numbers. You want to make things faster and bigger. And, there's lots of parallels that can be made to like human anatomy or whatever. Like, oh yeah, it's bigger. That's better. Definitely. Yeah. But there's like a very sort of hostile competitiveness that comes out, where you often find that women disproportionately are treated less than. And since women are often much more familiar with discrimination, women often are focusing a lot more on ethics, and things around prejudice and stereotypes and sexism, which means it gets associated with women more, and it's seen as less than. So the culture is really, really difficult to penetrate sometimes. I definitely not someone, it's generally not assumed that I'm technical. It's something that I sort of have to prove over and over again, but I'm called a linguist or I'm called an ethicist because these are things I care about and know about, but that's treated as less than. You don't program, you don't know about statistics, you are not as important. And it's often not until I start talking about things statistically or programming things or whatever that people do take me more seriously, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there's really a massive cultural barrier there as well.
Oh, you make so many good points in that. And I've noticed that, and we've heard Brene Brown talk about that recently on her podcast, where she gets deeply offended when people refer to her as a motivational speaker and not a scientist. Like she's a researcher, she is an academic. And the fact that you have to even prove that is so painful and ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm regularly called an ethicist, and I'm a computer scientist. I'm flattered that like all of, like the ethical studies that one has to do to be an ethicist is being imbued in me. Like that's very flattering. It also might be kind of offensive to ethics. But there's definitely just that assumption there. And I think it's especially when you're a woman that it really comes to a head where it's like they don't want to see you as technical or something like that. They don't want to see you as a scientist or something like that. So it becomes, really difficult.
And to your point, most men in the field won't pick up on the biases as quickly as women might. I know I'm just a very novice machine learning hobbyist, but there's been models where I will feed pictures of myself and they've cut my butt off and put a cell phone wallet in my back pocket as if I'm a man wearing jeans.
Right. Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's like,
yeah. And that's partially a function of the people who are developing the technology. They're just not, they don't have the world of being a woman in their heads. And so they miss a lot of that stuff. And, it's true for people with marginalized characteristics in general. So one of the close friends I made at Google was a Black man. And part of why we became close was because we could see the patterns of marginalization that was happening to the other that no one else saw. So we would see that one another were often being left off of emails where we were the most qualified person to be on that email. The kind of thing where if you bring up, you're sort of called a complainer or whatever. But he and I both had the life of experiencing this kind of stuff. So we saw this happening to one another. We were able to stand up for one another and things like that. It's just something that a lot of people miss unless they've had experience with discrimination.